Well, it's a very good evening and welcome from me. I hope everybody's well. Let's pop into the office then, shall we? And hi, say everybody. Here's my New York office, as you can see from my Manhattan skyline. It's actually moving. If you look very closely, it's moving. Anyway, enough of that. Welcome to my How to Succeed as a Mortgage Advisor. My tips, techniques, ideas thrown at you in like half an hour, as many as I can over the topics. And today we're going to be looking at the subject of goal setting, planning, your mojo, which of course, if you're an Austin Power fan, you know what that is, your motivation, your mojo, and diversification, looking at ways in which you can diversify the marketplace. Hope you're all well, hope it's good. So let's get cracking then with our first question, shall we? Because I want to get going for you. First question for you: how do I set goals? Now, I do every January a free goal setting session, which lasts about 45 minutes. So there's quite a lot to it, really. But essentially, goal setting itself is all about setting the right goal. It's about looking at the right idea behind it. It's about making sure that your business is going to work really well. That's the whole point, isn't it? Now, there's a few things going on there with goal setting. And goals, of course, are really important things to do. So let's take a look at some goals then that you can do. How can you set some goals for the year? Well, first of all, you'd be wanting to take a look at how you organize your vision as well as your goals. That's the one, isn't it? So you got your vision, which is about a 5-year thing. You've got your goals, which are annual, and then you've got your quarterly objectives. That's how you set your goals. And every December time, you want to be looking at your annual goals and setting them accordingly. And we're going to talk more about that as we progress, don't we? So what about this one as well then? So what goal setting technique can we use? Well, there's lots of different goal setting techniques that you can use, and everybody has their own one. I like to use a method of setting your goals and putting them into your timeline. So just take a look at an example of this one. You've got a goal that you've set yourself, maybe a 5-year vision, something like that, and you want to put it into your timeline. Now, timeline is a fictitious, like ahead. You know, it's like your future. And the whole point behind this one is that you take your goal, or when you formed it, they call it a well-formed outcome, to your future, your kind of future history, and you go into your future and you plop the image of when you've achieved that goal, when you've actually got the goal, it's achieved, you're feeling good, you're feeling excited, and everything's going particularly well. That's when your goal itself is there. That's how you set them. It's called well-formed outcomes, and I like that. More about that in another video for you as well. What targets should I set? Now, we're into tactics now. You've got your 5-year vision, you've got your annual goals, and you've got your quarterly objectives, Q1, 2, 3, 4. Now we start to look at how we target ourselves. And there's lots of things you can do to target yourselves. There's lots of things, particularly in the recession as well. Targets, you would definitely want to take a look at your profit as a target. You want to be targeting yourselves monthly for profit. Remember, turnover is for egos. Is it profit sanity, isn't it? Turnover is insanity. Look at your profits. So that's your income less your costs, of course. Monitor your cash flow as a target, particularly in a recession. You've really got to make sure your cash flow is kept above board to keep you going as well. Monitor your cases. Monitor how many cases you have, and monitor how much of a penetration you have of cases to, say, protection. So you want to set yourself targets around that as well. So if you're not a target setting kind of person, it's really good to do that as well. Another target that I like to use is this one here. Let's pop over to the whiteboard for a second and share this one with you. Now I call this the 4 3 2 1. 4 3 2 1. Now, most of you are mortgage advisors, protection advisors. You're going to be carrying out customer meetings, aren't you? And at the end of the day, what you're looking for are completions. You're not looking for anything else. Completions pay you money. They pay you profits, they pay you fees. That's what you want. Remember, turnover is insanity, profit is sanity. Now, to get there, you've got to get yourself busy. So if you go back a bit, if you have 2 fact finds or 2 full fact finds done by clients, yeah, and here we have 3 discovery calls. We did the sales process last time, didn't we? And 4 leads. Now that is not a bad little target to set yourself. As you can probably appreciate, what it requires is you have 4 leads, you have 3 discovery calls, you have 2 full fact finds of clients, and then you have 1 completion. That's not a bad average, depending on your marketplace, of course, and you can target yourself for that. So you can target how many leads you get, how many discovery calls you make from those leads, how many fact finds you make as well, because there's usually a drop off, isn't there? And then how many completions you have. I like that. That makes that's obviously for new business. If you're dealing with existing clients, which you probably are this year, and remortgages and stuff like that, then it doesn't quite matter so much, because if it's an existing client, they'll probably go through to completion. But if it's a new client, somebody you're working on new, that's a good model to have, and I think that's a good one to work with as well. Okay, let's get back over to our questions. Shall we? Next question for you. How can I use KPIs to motivate me? Now, KPIs, or key performance indicators, if you come from a corporate background, are all about how you measure yourself, what kind of figures or metrics you use to measure. But this one's about motivation. Now, many of you who've been in a corporate background probably had targets set by your businesses, which were more outputs. You see, KPIs are inputs or outputs. An output is what comes at the end of the KPI. It's the target that's been achieved. It's your annual growth. It's your profits. It's your number of cases. That's a target. That's an output. It's the input KPIs that you want to measure to motivate you. And they're the things like the leads generated, discovery calls, fact finds. It's the things that input towards getting business at the output. So don't measure yourself on the outputs, because they're usually from the past, aren't they? And they'll either depress you or excite you. In a down market that we've got at the moment, they'll probably end up depressing you. So that's a good thing with KPIs to motivate you. The other one is what I call an SMS, which stands for a salesperson's motivation system. Now, you're salesperson, mortgage advisor, whatever you want to call yourself. Now, this is where you're measuring KPIs. The big problem we've got in our sector is that most of us celebrate when we get a completion. A mortgage offer in and a completion. That tends to be when we celebrate. It could be protection sales as well. Now, to get there takes an awful lot of effort, to get a mortgage completion and a proc fee paid. You've got prospecting to do, client acquisition to do, social media work to do as well, marketing to do. You've got to make phone calls to fix up first meetings. You've got to have second meetings. You've got to get your tech right. You've got to do all your compliance. You've got to do all your sourcing. You've got to find the right mortgage, the right protection for the client. I run out of fingers, haven't I? All these things that you've got to do to get the completion. So what you do here is you measure yourself against all those aspects of doing the business. And I give myself points. So when I do a bit of marketing, for example, I issue myself 5 points. If I write an article, I issue myself 10 points. If I put a video on YouTube, I give myself 15 points. If I speak to a new client, I get 20 points. You see where I'm going? And I target myself a number of points per week and per month. And that way I get a boost of adrenaline when I achieve my points targets. So that's what KPIs use to motivate you, because at the moment it's all about the motivation, isn't it? I think you'd probably agree with that one. Okay, let's carry on then with the KPIs. Let's talk about motivation. Are there any other ways of motivating myself? Because key here, isn't it? There's a number of things you can do to motivate yourself, really. You can have good goals, of course. You can have your objectives, your vision, your 5-year vision, your annual goals, your objectives, quarterly objectives. Of course, you can have all those things. But first, we'll find out what is your real reason for doing what you do, is the first one to ask yourself. So are there any ways? What's your why, as Sinek calls it? What's your why? What is it? Why do you do what you do? What's your motivation? For me, I love getting new people into the mortgage sector and making them do really well. It gives me a buzz. It pays the bills as well. But you have to have a why. Some of you have got family, children, all those things. You might want to protect your children, give them a good upbringing. That's a great reason why, and that's a way to motivate yourself as well. I think that's a good one. Figure out what motivates you. Are you a towards person or an away from person? Are you towards or away from? Now, this is a motivation, and it determined about you. I'm very much a towards person in my goals. I like to achieve things. I like to get something done, an exciting new venture achieved. I'm very much towards in my goal setting. Some people are away from. So when it comes to motivating yourself, make sure that your goals and objectives are either towards or they're away from some kind of danger or something like that. That's another way of motivating yourself as well. So there's a couple of ideas there for you as well. Next question. How do I turn goals into tactics? Now, we've kind of talked about this a lot, really. I've talked about the 5-year vision. I've talked about the annual goals, and I've talked about the quarterly objectives. Notice it becomes a vision, goals, objectives. As they get smaller, they get more tactical. Now, with your quarterly objectives, which you set yourself each quarter, you will want to work out a number of tactics in order to achieve those goals. Tactics are kind of like action plans, to-dos, etc., etc. And what I do is I use what's called SNAs. Let me explain to you what I mean by an SNA. Let's take out our 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, because this is the process that you can use. Of course, as I mentioned to you, you have your vision, your 5-year vision. That moves into annual goals, which you set each December. That then moves into quarterly objectives, or big objectives, or small goals, whatever you want to call it. But then you have to turn that into action plans, and I then turn that into what I call SNAs. Now, an SNA stands for Strategic Next Action. Do you like that? It's very American, isn't it? Strategic Next Action. And I have a number of SNAs according to my main objectives of what I do, on my main functions. So, for example, I might have an SNA for marketing. I might have an SMA for writing, because I do a lot of writing, as you know. I have an SNA for fee-based work, getting business. So I have several SNAs. So what I do, quite simply, is I transfer the goals from the quarterly to strategic next actions, marketing, writing, or fee. And I make those tactics, and those are what we call tactics, which are much more tactical. Having an SNA and various categories keeps you to your focus. So many of us do so many different things all the time. Of course, that's no good to anybody. You've got to focus on what's key to your business. Otherwise, you'll just end up just being busy, busy, busy. Busy, busy broker. How busy are you? I'm really busy, says the broker. And she thinks she's doing really well, but she's very busy doing non-profitable activities, which is often the case, isn't it? Okay, let's head over to our questions, shall we? How do we turn goals into tactics? There's a few ideas there for you as well, to give you a couple of ideas. Next question, here we go. How do I maintain my motivation, or my mojo? How do I keep my motivation? This is a big one, isn't it? How do I maintain my mojo? You might struggle with this at the moment, with a bit of a downturn, isn't it? Particularly if you just started in business, you may not have a big client bank to go and product transfer. You might find it difficult dealing with all these first-time buyers and not taking any action. You might be looking at your profits going down, and yeah, it's hard to maintain your mojo. And I got a couple of ideas here for you, which might work, might not. Depends really where you're coming from with your mojo, your motivation. The first thing about your motivation is you're dominated by self-talk, by self-dialogue. All of us talk to ourselves. And when we talk to ourselves, we're talking thoughts, we're talking things. And those talks, those thoughts turn into feelings, which turns into actions. So if you're feeling quite low, it's probably because you're giving yourself negative dialogue or negative talk. You know, you wake up and there's nothing in the day. Oh, what's going on here? How am I going to cope here? This mortgage industry, it's not what they told me it was. I'm really finding it a struggle. I'm not very good at this. Perhaps I wasn't made to do this. You know, the kind of thing. They call it imposter syndrome nowadays. Everyone's got a syndrome, haven't they, for everything now. But we've had self-talk, or negative self-talk, for decades, donkey's years. So what you want to do is to turn your negative talk into positive self-talk. Easier said than done, isn't it? Think positive, you know, all those things. But if you can start controlling your thoughts, then you have the ability to be able to change the way you feel. And that's the thing. It's CBT, and I'll talk about that in the next question, I think. Coaching, which is behavioral therapy, isn't it? It's about your thoughts, which control your actions, which control, you know, your feelings, and they all link in together, don't they? That's the whole point behind it. So here's a couple of ideas that you can use to control your self-talk and to think positively. And I'll share this with you now. It's a little bit of a graph. So we're going to head over to that whiteboard again. We're keeping this whiteboard busy today, aren't we? There you go. Let's get rid of that. Now, when I feel a little bit low and I need to have some positive self-dialogue with myself, I do a snapshot of where I am. And what I do is I look at a graph, really, and I'll give you an idea of this graph to show you how this one works. What you want to do is you want to look at a graph which looks at 4 quartiles. Now, this one here looks at the future. There you go, that's the future. and the bit at the bottom looks at the past. Okay, so what you've got here is past and future. So up here are future thoughts, in other words, things that are going to happen to you in the future. And down here are thoughts that have already happened to you in the past. And what I will do is put a great big one in the middle here, which is the important one, which is thoughts that you're having right now in the present. Now, just to finish this off, what you have is here you have positive, and here you have negative. Positive, negative. And you've got yourself a bit of a grid going. So what I then do is I then capture how I'm thinking. And I say to myself, okay, well, what's happened in the past recently that's positive? You know, what kind of successes have you had in the past? And you might have won an award dinner, or you might have had a nice testimonial from a client, maybe a Google review or something. So you think back to the nice things that have happened to you in your career in the past. So you talk about, you know, successes that you've had in the past. And it's good to have a success diary, by the way. I know a lot of people post on LinkedIn all their customer testimonials. I don't get that. LinkedIn don't need to know that you've had a customer testimonial. You do, not the LinkedIn followers. But keep a journal of all your testimonials or all your cards or whatever it is that people say to you. So when you are having a low moment, you can go back and think about that. Now, the other thing you can do is take a look at the negative past thoughts. And this is where it starts to get the problems start. Now, in the past, you might have made a big mistake somewhere. You might have made an error at work, which got you down. You might have had some negative feedback from somebody, maybe a colleague or something. Something that's happened in the past that's not particularly good, maybe some conflict or whatever. Now, what you do here is with the negative stuff, if you've made a mistake or you've had some negative feedback, you learn from that. You think, well, did I learn from that? Did I change whatever I needed to change? If so, you then dump it. Just get rid of it from your head. There's no value keeping it in your brain. If learn from it, yeah, of course you should, but then just get rid of it. Put a little trapdoor on the back of your head and get shot of it. Now, the good things are great, but you can pine over good things, and it's fine. Keep that going. It doesn't do any harm. You want to take a look at the future now. The first one with the future is to take a look at future negative. Now, future negative could be some anxiety issues you've got coming up, maybe something you're not looking forward to. Maybe you're worried about something. You're worried about business in the autumn, possibly. You're stressed about the future. And of course, this is going to cause your negative thoughts. This causes you worry, doesn't it? And anxiety and those things. You're worried about, you know, the number of cases you're going to get in the autumn. Will interest rates settle? Or that sort of thing. And it's going to get you down. And you will get that. You will have those things. And what you need to do is to start controlling those. Can you control that stuff? Can you control interest rates? Well, the fact is you can't. You're not Andrew Bailey. You can't walk up to the Bank of England and start influencing interest rates. Can you influence business or recession? No, you can't. But what you can do, of course, is you can do some diversification, which we're going to look at. You can do some learning, some L&D or whatever, to try and help yourself with the future. Don't worry about anxieties and what you can't control. There's no mileage in that one. The best one, though, is the future stuff. This is where things start to go lovely. You might be looking forward to a holiday. You might be looking forward to some stuff with a family. You might be looking forward to some a new referral system you've got, or a new product you're launching in the autumn or something to look forward to. And they're good thoughts. They're the ones you should try and find more of. You don't need to control those because they're good things. So what you find, therefore, is your thinking starts to get dominated by the future positive and the now. This is about presenteeism, isn't it? This is about the current situation, where you are now, today. Wake up, make the most of the day, rather than worrying about the future or getting anxious about what's happened in the past or something like that. Focus on the good things for the future. Focus on the now. Try and get rid of the negative future by controlling and diversifying. Yeah, pine about your successes, love all that, but get rid of these negative emotions, learn from them, and you'll find, therefore, that if you can, about 90% of your thinking should be in those boxes. That's the thing. Catch yourself talk. That's all you're doing. You're just writing down what you're thinking about. And then you'll find yourself becoming much more motivated, your mojo will start to improve, and you'll feel a lot better about yourself. So there's a little technique there for you about controlling your thoughts. Remember, it's your fault because it's your thought that counts at the end of the day. Okay, let's head back over to our questions, shall we? And we'll see what we got now. Another one coming up for you, which I quite like one, is this one here. This question came in. How do you, there's just details about that graph that we just gave you as well, if you wanted to see it on the slide. Just move through that one for you. There you go. Then now, there you go. The other question I ask you is, how do I handle setbacks? Now, again, similar to this, really, maintaining your mojo. How do you bounce back from setbacks, from things that went wrong? Now, over on our graph there, of course, over here, things go wrong and we put them in the negative past. So if something goes wrong in the past, then learn from it, because you might have mucked up somewhere or something's happened. Learn from it, and then memorize that learning, and then delete the past one. So that's the best way, really, of bouncing back. It's called bounce back ability, resilience. It's all about, remember, controlling your thoughts and your feelings and your actions. It's about feelings. A lot of people keep a feelings journal. Work out what you're feeling at any at one time, and then find out what your thoughts are, because thoughts, remember, affect your feelings. Feelings affect your actions. So capture those feelings. That's the best way of handling setbacks as well for you. How do I handle online negative feedback? Here we go. This is, again, you're working on your own, you're having to operate on your own. It's very difficult sometimes, and you might get some sort of online negative feedback from somebody on social media. Three things really here, quite simple. If you have feedback from people, colleagues, online, social media, you'll get it, and it might be negative. And the problem is that we remember the negative stuff, don't we? We don't remember the good things. Remember that testimonial journal, all the good things that happened to you. Remember that? But you'll probably get one piece of negative feedback for every 10, 15 great things. But you remember the negatives. That's the problem. Here's the rule, quite simply. Number one, did you ask for the feedback? If you didn't ask for it, dump it. So somebody's like spontaneously giving you some feedback, you didn't ask for it, just dump it. Don't even look at it. It's not worth time of day, is it? So that's the first one. Did you ask for it? Number two, do you respect the person that gave it to you? If you don't know them from Adam, dump it. There's no value in that. I often get people on YouTube, because YouTube's quite anonymous, isn't it? I sometimes get people saying some weirdly, wonderfully horrible things. I didn't ask for it. I didn't know them or respect them, so I just dump it. I just delete it. It's no big deal. So again, did you ask for it? No, dump it. Do you respect them? No, dump it. Last one, is it right? No, it's wrong, so dump it. It's as simple as that. That's how you get rid of negative online feedback. Last one I got here. Is it right? No, it's not right. It's wrong. So dump it. Okay, they may have an opinion. Of course, everyone's got an opinion. The problem online, of course, is that people don't have to tell you who they are, do they? I often say to people, if they send me something, I say, look, direct message me, and with your thoughts and your comments, and I'll deal with it that way. Of course, people won't direct message you because it's their name comes up then, doesn't it? Or email me. They're not going to do that. So that's how you deal with negative feedback. Like that one, don't you? Where can I go with my business? Let's talk about your business now. What can you do with your business now for the future in order to get bigger or grow, whatever it is you want to do. Now, do you want to grow, first of all? Do you want to increase your business size? Do you want to get some people working for you, maybe some employees, some admin people? Do you want to get some ARs in yourself and grow your advisory side of things? That's certainly an option. You might just want to remain on your own. That's okay. But the first thing that good brokers do is they improve their infrastructure. They get some admin people, power planners, whatever it is, to do a lot of the legwork for you. And then they might carefully bring in one or two new advisors. If you do that, there's a lot of time involved because you've got to do all the coaching of those new people, but it might be worthwhile. And you might then end up with an empire. So that's one way of taking your business. The other way your business can go possibly is to more of a specialized area. You could specialize more, maybe specialize in the later life lending market. You could possibly specialize in the financial advice area as well. So you can specialize in your business as well if you prefer to. So there's a couple of ideas where your business can go. We'll explore those a bit more now, shall we? Is there any merit in becoming an IFA? Well, it's up to you. I think the fact is that dealing with clients for mortgages and protection It's not that far off giving full financial advice. It's a client, you have to remain compliant, you have fact finding, you have all the tools. And to give a client advice on their retirement options, savings, investments, long-term care, whatever it is, it's just the next step. A person is a person, a client is a client. Just because they're a first-time buyer and they've just maybe have a couple of kids and they're buying a first house, they all have other needs as well. So I often think that if you've got a client bank, why can't you give them full financial advice as well? It does make sense if you think about it. And the other thing about becoming an IFA is it pays more. However you look at it, okay, you might be the exception. I get that as well. You might be dealing in the seconds market and the bridging market, and you might be getting really high prop fees. But most IFAs earn a lot more. And there's not that many IFAs around. At last count, there's about 26,000 advisors, financial advisors. I think there's 27, 28,000 now. There's a few more coming in. A lot of them are retiring because they're all my kind of age, really. A lot of them are retiring. And there's an awful lot of very rich baby boomers semi-retiring and getting to the end of their careers with a lot of money to invest. There's a lot of people looking to do pension planning. There's a lot of clients who will pay fees to a financial advisor. So that's the other reason why there's definitely merit in becoming an IFA, I think, in your business. That's up to you, isn't it? What anti-recession tactics do you recommend, Paul? Anti-recession tactics. Well, I've got several really for you. First of all, think about diversifying. That's the key. Don't just do mortgages for first-time buyers buying a property because they ain't around at the moment. They'll come back. Everything bounces back. But to diversify into other areas of your business, definitely. Go online so you don't have to rely on face-to-face office, rental premises, that sort of thing. So that will certainly cut your costs, trim your costs where you can without being ridiculous, of course. So trim your costs or be aware of what your costs are. Have a cash flow forecast, some kind of spreadsheet showing that as well. Cuddle your client base. You will have a client bank. Hopefully you've kept them on a CRM system. If you haven't, start now. Cuddle your clients. Ring fence them is probably a more acceptable word to use these days. Ring fence your clients because they will be clients of other institutions, but you want them to rely upon you. So make sure you incubate them, make sure you look after them, you keep them informed of what's going on, you give them all the information they need to help you, because when they're ready to move or remortgage or product transfer or whatever, you need to be there to deal with that. That's the big thing for you to be thinking about doing. Get into a different area, diversify into equity release, later life lending market, development finance. There's a massive area now to think about. So it's definitely worth looking at those ideas. But the big one is diversify. All businesses that diversify will get through the recession and work hard too, which is obviously key to it, isn't it? How can I move into equity release? Equity release, of course, is an area where you need a qualification. It's not a particularly difficult qualification, just requires a bit of your time, really. So get yourself organized on that. And we have a boot camp, of course, for that one as well. You do need to have a different sales process, a different ethics, different style, because dealing with later life lending clients requires many more meetings, and it's a different need area, different type of client. You will be dealing with the older generation. That might be easy for you. It might be hard for you. You might be of a younger generation, and when you talk, the baby boomers don't get you, or vice versa. So you need to be able to work yourself to understand the clients that you're with as well. That's an important one. You need to be able to prospect for different clients. Your first time buyer clients may not be appropriate for the later life lending market because they're too young, so you might have to do some prospecting. So it's certainly an area to look at. Don't just restrict yourself to equity release. Think about the later life lending marketplace, because there's so much going on there. It's a massive market, enormous market. I know interest rates have hammered it recently, but everything bounces back. It always does. Interest rates, remember, a bit like pouring Coke, aren't they, into a cup, into a glass. You pour the Coke in and you get this froth. It takes like a couple of minutes before the froth dies down, and then you can top it up with full liquid. Interest rates, when swap market gets going, it just froths, isn't it? But it settles down. It always does. There'll be another rise next month. It'll froth again, but then it'll settle down. Interest rates will be settling down in the autumn. As long as we know that, we know where we go, don't we? So, of course, that's something to think about. And the equity release market is extremely competitive now. Okay, next question. Here we go. What other areas can I move into? Well, we talked about most of these, haven't we, really? The IFA is a big one. You could possibly look at some kind of debt management, debt counselling. How you make money from that's a difficult one, though, isn't it? You could generally look at protection, of course. Don't forget general insurance. I know it's boring. It doesn't pay a lot, but it's really important. Protection, of course, is a key one. A long-term care provision might be something you could look at as well. Development finance, seconds, bridging. There's all sorts of options are very available to you. You might need to do a little bit of learning, but you might have a bit of time over the summer to do that. So whatever areas can I move into would certainly be a good one as well. Next question. How can I manage my working day? Let's get into time management now then. How do you manage your working day? Well, there's a few things going on here. First of all, you need a electronic calendar system that's linked to your CRM system. So if you don't have one, just pay $10 for Capsule, another $10 for Microsoft 365. Combine the two, and you've got yourself a way of managing your working day. Once you've got Microsoft 365 or something like that, you've got your online calendar, you've got your task list, and you've got your email as well. And with that, you can then work through things. Remember to chunk your day. A lot of advisors take appointments late at night. I get that, but have set appointment time schedules in your diary at any particular time, maybe early evening as well. And when a client wants to meet you, you suggest the time. Don't say, when would you like to meet me then? Yeah, you suggest the time that you've got available in your diary. That's the best way of managing your working day. Chunk your time accordingly. So chunk your admin time, chunk your prospecting time, marketing time, LinkedIn, social media, chunk your client appointment times, color code them as well so you can see at a glance what you're doing. Only have three things, A, B, C. A is client meetings where you make money. B are activities that develop themselves towards client meetings where you make money. And number three is everything else in admin. Don't overcomplicate it, guys. Remember, A is client meetings. Good stuff, definitely. B are in things you do to prepare for client meetings. I'm not talking about, your paperwork preparation. I'm talking about social media, marketing, all those things that gets you business. And C is admin. Remember, as soon as you can, delegate the admin to somebody that can do it for you, who earns a lower monthly rate or hourly rate. Don't knock it. This is what the world's about, isn't it? So that's how you manage your day. A few ideas there for you as well. What else we got for you? A couple of final questions for you here. How can tech manage my day? Well, we talked about Office 365, some sort of CRM system. You do need to look at some kind of tech, don't you, to help you. You may have an all singing, all dancing software that does it all for you. Don't have a paper diary because you lose those things. So tech itself, other tech you might want to think about. You can look at Zoom for your client meetings, of course. You've got your sourcing software to help you. You've got recording software, podcast software, video software if you want to start doing that as well, apps for your phone. There's all sorts of things you can use to manage your day with tech. But I think the key one is something like Office 365 or Google Gmail's fine, and a capsule CRM or a CRM system that talks to you. Business people, by the way, run their working day through their CRM system because it's all about clients, it's all about customers, all on your CRM. You run your diary through your CRM system. That's the sort of ideas for you on tech as well. Okay, what else we got for you? What other time-saving tactics can I employ? Wow, there's loads really, isn't there? We talked about chunking your time. Delegating is a big one. Don't forget to get some people to help you to do some of the admin, power planners, people who are qualified in CMAT, get them to do a lot of the work for you. Get a virtual assistant, somebody from another part of the country who can do a lot of your work for you as well. So get a VA, a virtual assistant to help you. Use Zoom to talk to customers as opposed to jumping in the car and destroying the environment as you drive there. There's all sorts of things you can do there as well. That's a good one as well. Build up your support staff. Yeah, definitely. But the biggest time-saving tactic you can do right now is to learn how to qualify customers. I think that's a big one, that. Learn how to qualify customers. We've talked about it before. I see so many advisors now, mortgage advisors, who are very busy. So how are things? Oh, really busy, they tell me. Got loads of client meetings. I'm talking to clients all the time. Well done, you. But the problem is they're just doing that. They're just talking to clients, customers, and it's not going to the next stage. The customer's not committed to move to the next point. And the advisors are spending all her time just talking to these customers and getting nowhere, making no money, which is the scary thing about it. If you qualify your customer up front, motivation, ability, need, timescale, manned. How motivated are they to move or take out finance? Do they have the ability to do it? Obviously, you've got to do decisions and principles, but do they have the ability, the money, the fees, all that kind of. And do they have the need to go ahead and purchase? And T, do they have a time scale involved, or are they just going to do it next August, a year and a month's time? So remember to qualify people early, and then spend time with people. Spend most of your time with people who are fully qualified. You might not be spending time with a lot of these people, but the ones who are qualified are going to go ahead and buy or take out the mortgage. So that's one of the best things you can do for time-saving tactics. Whoa, there we are. Loads of questions there for you. We've done all right with those, haven't we? As always, remember, we've been talking about goal setting, planning, Mojo, and diversification for you. Lots and lots of ideas. Hope that's helped you along the way. Remember, if you're not on our database, remember that QR code there. Where is it? Over there. The QR code. Snap that with your phone, and that will get you into the system. Just put your email address, and you're part of our environment then, isn't it? Other than that, I'm going to wish you a very good evening. Sun shining out there at the moment, so have fun under the sun, and I'll be seeing you next week, I think, when we come back with some more. Bye for now.